Yeah, the things that you should be looking out for in a home and in an area are vast. They vary from what you see, from what you can touch and feel, and what you can sense. Even if you start, for example, going to Google Earth and looking at the general area, the neighborhood. Do you like where it is in the neighborhood? Are there elements of the neighborhood that you like or dislike? You get a sense of the area right away as soon as you start doing that. So I think that's good homework before you even get to the house. When you get to the house, each subdivision has its, its own personality. And you'll be able to sense whether you fit into that personality or you don't fit into that personality of the neighborhood. You'll see things like well-manicured lawns, beautiful gardens, people taking care of their homes, things aren't dilapidated. If that's your style, if that's your standard, you're gonna have a wonderful experience in that neighborhood. So let's assume that you go into an area with high standards, with those expectations we just talked about, and for some reason, you see things like roof shingles that are curling all over the place, dilapidated houses, things that should have been painted years ago that weren't. You look at neighbors, for example, who park on their lawns, have all sorts of trash. And even if it's not consistent throughout the neighborhood, let's say there are one or two of those, weekend warrior type guys who store things in the front lawn until they never get to it. Those are the kind of things that you want to watch out for. Some people avoid that. That's in their peripheral vision when they're coming into a neighborhood and they're only focused on the house. Well, that may not give you a sense of the overall neighborhood, so be very, very careful with that. The second thing, when you come to visit a home, you want to take in the home itself. Like when you come to the front door, the doorknob. I know this might sound silly, but the doorknob, is it dirty? Does it have sticky jam on it? Is there peanut butter out there? Do they have cigarette butts and cans in the front, on the front porch or whatever the case is, stuff strewn on the lawn, kids' stuff? That's a good indicator that people don't really care about their place. So when you go into a property like that, you might want to have a keener sense of what's really going on, i.e., is trim coming off? Do you think they've changed the furnace filter? Do you hear drips or running toilets and all those kind of things? That gives you a sense as who the owner is. And if you can get a sense as to who the owner is, it may inspire you or push you away from going after that particular house because, either A, it was maintained well by what you view, or alternatively, it wasn't maintained well, and you could be into a flippin' nightmare with respect to the type of home you're going to get and the maintenance that's going to be required. So some of the obvious things aren't so obvious because when people improve their homes, typically when they're going to go and sell it, a lot of people fluff it up and spruce it up. I call it kind of lipstick on a pig, right? You don't really know what's behind it until you look deeply. It might look good, it's a fresh coat of paint, maybe some new laminate flooring, hardwood carpet, whatever. But when you really start looking around, the floor is tilted, you have issues with cracks in the ceiling, foundational problems when you go down into the basement. Maybe you would sense some kind of, water or musty or mold in the basement. You might find that the sump pump is going off all the time. And of course, the sump pump is the thing that collects the water from around the house and ejects it from away from the house to avoid the basement leaking. Now, if that's going off all the time, that's a good sense that you're either on a water vein or the area, generally speaking, has a high water table. And if you start looking for things like that, the subtle things, go around the house a second time after you take everything in, for example. The first time you look at it, oh, it's nice, it's this, it's that. Do a second walk around. That second walk around, after the impact of the lipstick has worn off, you can see things if there are things to be seen. You can hear things if there are things to be heard that will maybe help you decide whether you should keep that on the short list or check that one right off.